Okay, I'm recording now. This is Bruce Edwin, Subnormal magazine for the Hollywood Sentinel, speaking today with Valor, Christian Death, Matri, and Jason. How are you all?
Very good, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Valor, the last time I had the pleasure to see you with the band, you probably don't remember, but it was back in Chicago, like just before 2000. You played, I believe it was Metro. And I saw you back then, had a pleasure to meet you then, and it was a great show. Now, a lot has obviously happened in the world politically and whatever since then. Are you, if you don't mind me asking, where are you living at now?
All over.
Yeah.
Actually. When we're not on tour, New England, Florida,
Cool.
Northern California now.
Wow. Excellent. Are you, you've been touring a lot, I've heard lately.
Actually, we've been doing a U.S. tour. We had a small break, but haven't done much prior to this tour for a year or so.
Okay. Now, did you do the Canadian leg yet, or is that coming up next?
We've already done a Canadian show. We're not doing more than the one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Toronto. Actually, Etobicoke.
Cool.
Not far from Toronto.
Yeah. And are you doing, I saw one recent interview with you where you had done a lot of like dates in Europe and beyond. Are you doing more like on this coming up soon?
At the beginning of next year.
Okay.
Probably going to be doing a lot of tours. We're going to go to South America again.
Wow.
Look forward to that one.
Excellent.
We're actually going to be promoting the anniversary edition of Catastrophe Ballet.
30 year. You forget to say that every time. That's
Wow.
the 30th anniversary of Catastrophe Ballet.
That's amazing. I remember when I first picked it up on vinyl and Reckless Records in Chicago, it had Chaton on the cover. And
Reckless in Chicago, I thought they only had one in London.
Oh, really? Yeah, no. There's one on Broadway in Chicago.
When did you get it? What year did you get it?
I got it probably in like 1995 or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it a red one? A red cover? Or
Pink.
Pink is fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I've loved your music for years. Are you still happy touring? I know some bands I've spoken with, it's like just a gruel, hassle or part of it.
No!
Love it.
My gosh, we're having a blast.
Yeah, it's really actually just
Yeah.
just a really fun time, I mean,
That's great.
I can see how it can be tiring for some people, but really once you break it down and you're just traveling around playing music and seeing the country and seeing the world, how can you really go wrong with that? I think anyone who's tired of it is it's not really, well, they're just not appreciating it for what it is, and have lost sight of what the actual the goal and the pleasure in it.
That's awesome. I love that, and I agree. Yeah, I've interviewed, I think it was Violent Femmes one time, and he was like, oh, it's just a job, and, I really don't want to be here. I'm like, why be here then, But that's very cool. You've been in a unique position, I feel, in that you've obviously, over the years, become more and more successful and obviously making a living with your art and making music, but you're still so-called underground. I mean, the so-called goth industrial scene in itself was kind of underground, not as much perhaps as it was in a day, but how has that been for you? I know that's kind of, I know that's kind of a vague question, but yeah.
Well, the only part that sucks about being underground is you don't really make a good living out of it. You're still struggling. It's not like you can go to the best recording studios. I mean, for me, if I could eat, I'm happy.
Yeah.
But to be able to have the resources to make nice videos and music and have orchestras and all that kind of stuff is something you don't get when you're underground, and that's something that I miss personally.
Yeah. Makes sense. When I was speaking with you last, we were talking about the theory of Nostradamus, and of course you've had Nostradamus records, and we were talking about the potential, fiascos of 2000. Obviously, certain things happen, but fortunately, perhaps we're all still here. So, what are your philosophies now on what some think is going to still culminate in the end of 2013 and just
I think I wore myself thin with paranoia.
Yeah.
So I don't live that life at the moment.
Wow.
The world is full of potential calamities that could happen at any time.
Yeah.
And I think I've come to the conclusion that it's time to just enjoy life for what it is instead of fretting about too many things. There's so many things that could happen. Obviously, some of the biggest things that I was fretting about never happened. So.
Okay, that's a very mature perspective, and I'm glad to hear you say that. I used to voraciously read the news and get, and I still do, look at junk on the internet, and I just get livid, and I see, okay, NSA is spying on us like we didn't know stuff like this happened, and get all pissed off about it.
Yeah, I mean, that was what American Inquisition was pretty much. That was the inspiration was what was going on with the Bush regime. That was just so. I still think 9/11 was an inside job, as a lot of people say. And,
I do too.
And there's a lot of things like that. But what can you? We're not going to hop on about all the. There's just so much going on in the world. All you can do is make people aware. But I think the potential for a disaster is something that we've lived with since the man has invented the atomic bomb.
Exactly.
And so,
Well, look at the typhoon that just went through China. Nobody's even talking about it. That's 200,000 people. I don't even know how many people died just now.
With what the
typhoon in China.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
and everybody's always worried about the little lives here and there, but nobody's actually living anymore. Everybody's always seeking for drama and looking for things to occupy themselves or complain about it. And it's so hard to just have some fun these days.
People like to live vicariously through media as well.
Yeah.
Their TV shows.
And everyone's stuck on the freaking internet. It's
Exactly. Look, we're even doing an interview on the iPhone.
Yeah, well, alternate version
Hey, that's
of it.
perfect.
But
Why
Apple owes you money for saying that, by the way.
Huh?
I said Apple owes you money now for saying that.
yeah. And now I heard they're going to try to start pulling people's conversations or stuff that they put on certain social media for advertising, without our consent.
These are definitely things to be concerned about.
Yeah.
For me, the whole concept of Nostradamus was totally inspired by the fear of a nuclear war.
Okay.
And then as time progressed, it seemed like there could have been a lot of other reasons. And all that is that the human race is escalating to such a funneling end.
And then we die.
And then we die.
And then we're all worried for nothing.
And of course the Christians are all expecting Jesus to come and save them, and so everyone's looking towards the future with paranoia, but the fact is that our lives are so short. By the time that the real paranoia does actually crunch, which seems inevitable to most people, it's logic, how many of us that are alive today are actually going to experience it? How long will it actually take? And I spent a lot of time contemplating these things and writing songs about it, and I'm not going to live in fear anymore. I'm not going to live in fear whether or not the NSA is going to kick down my doors because it's something I said on the internet.
Good. Yeah. Exactly.
And I am going to speak my word, my mind, and speak my mind from now on. I'm not going to stop standing on my pulpit and complaining about the things in the world, even if it risks my life to do so. But I'm not going to live in fear. I was living in fear, thinking that I always had an option, an alternative plan. Like going to Antarctica. That was a pipe dream that didn't happen because if you think about the fact that it's cost so much money to do something like that. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I see people like Alex Jones, a site called InfoWars. I'm sure you've seen that.
Absolutely.
And who's, I think, very brave. And there's a few people still putting truth out there, and that you do so from an artistic perspective, I think, is very cool. And I've always respected that about you. In addition to loving your music. With that said, you mentioned the aspect of Christians. Two thoughts going through my head. One, and I asked you this like back before 2000, I want to ask you again now. When we are gone, what do you think is going to be reality for you? Do you think you're going to have any conscious perception of any type of existence after the body, brain is like not functioning anymore?
To presume that I have an answer to that is nothing less than presumptuous.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we can assume all we want. We can believe all the stories we've heard from people. We can feel that it's in our heart, this, that, or the other thing. Mm-hmm. But the actual fact is that, you know, death is the ultimate enigma.
Yeah.
You know, Christianity is the most powerful religion on the planet. You know, these are the two things that we live by, you know, in the title of the name.
Yeah.
And we don't have an answer to that, and people who do assume they have an answer are very either hopeful or presumptuous.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's no specific ideology one way or the other that you have a strong belief in that you think may occur?
I think that there's so much going on in the universe, and if you think of multi-dimensional aspects of size and space and time, and we've had this conversation many times within the band.
Yeah.
There's so much out there that the likelihood of it being something that continues our existence on spiritually. They say that energy doesn't die. Right. They say that our thoughts are electrical matter, but electrical energy.
Yeah.
So that electrical energy is never dies. So therefore, maybe potentially our thoughts, or at least our input into this universe, doesn't either. So, and a positive note, there is so much going out there that the likelihood of something positive in it being an eternal is very likely, in my opinion,
very likely,
very likely, and the concept of there being absolutely nothing, you know, just black hole, and even black holes are not empty. Okay.
Yeah.
So, no matter where you go, there was always something. So, it's really about our ego. Is it because we enjoy life, or is it because we're afraid that we're so insignificant that when we perish, that we mean nothing?
Yeah.
So that's the question you really ask.
It's a great answer, and I mean, great thoughts to lead to more thoughts. Regarding the earthly realm of Christians in general, you mentioned that, and obviously it's part of the name. These days, in my view, I mean, of course, the Catholic Church has, you know, committed a lot of atrocities with the genocide, you know, Inquisition and all that in the early days. These days, so-called fascist of certain so-called Islamo-fascists, you know, is occurring with all that threat. What are your thoughts? Do you think
it's no different?
Okay.
No different than the Dark Ages. People in the Middle East are living in the Dark Ages now.
Yeah.
We've already been through that. They just haven't progressed. I mean, society came to them later, a couple hundred years later. It wasn't. It's the oil that has changed, transformed them. They're going through all this turmoil because they're actually realizing, you know, some people are willing to die for it because they don't want to accept reality. But the internet and mass media are educating these people at a rate faster than they can deal with. Especially when they're being broadbashed by their peers and their family, that you cannot, you know, push away, you know, Allah, that you will die in hell forever and burn eternally. Well, that's the same crap the Christians were telling people 200 years ago and burning people at the stake. And now the only difference of burning people at the stake, the people are getting blown up in buses. So it's exactly the same thing. Same song, you know, different singer.
Yeah. Makes sense. Actually, you've been with the band actually since the inception. pretty much, or well, for at least a long part of it. How have
Very long part of it, I think, right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And how has it been for you? I mean, I know that's like a general question, but do you share Valor's ideologies with what we've just discussed, or do you have any?
Of course I do, but I am the kind of person that just I'm more about living and being part of this world how it is right now, and not trying to analyze everything so much.
Yeah.
And I'm into being very positive and
Wow.
and thinking with my heart, and I want to leave this earth very positive. So that's what I'm about.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I was in a very dark place when I first had the pleasure of meeting Valor, and just like, I mean, I still love music of the so-called, genre. I hate even labels of music, but yeah, I was just like probably destroying myself. Not only would I won't digress on that, but to hear you say that you're, in a positive realm, that's very cool. So,
I think that's the best way to be.
Yeah, I agree. And thinking
But that doesn't mean you can go in those dark holes, because that's how you find out how to be positive.
that's very true. Going in the so-called abyss, definitely.
We do that with the music. We take a negative or a dark feeling to help wrench you through the ringer, in other words, so that you can find the positive aspect of it.
It's great.
Yeah, lots of people say they're depressive or suicidal listening to Christian Death, or they're very down.
Yeah.
And lots of people don't allow themselves to just be in that phase for a while, because if you're not allowing yourself that, you won't know who you are. That's the perfect way to find out who you are yourself.
Yeah.
And lots of people don't allow that, so they get more into those deep holes.
Exactly. Definitely. Yeah, so many do, and I did for a while. Fortunately, I got out of it, but
Well, good.
alive.
Good, I'm glad.
Thank you. Yeah, and likewise. And Jason, you've been with the band for a while. I heard you in Soundcheck. You're great on drums. How has this tour and the tours been for you?
Well, this one in particular has actually been really nice. Yeah, well, just to elaborate more on what my teacher was saying, it has been very positive.
Cool.
Which is really nice to see. We don't have to take more than a couple steps to find people who are just as positive and want to be there with us and show us things and take us around. And we met countless just really, really good people on this tour specifically, and in the past too.
Don't tell them about all the secret stuff we did.
No. But yeah, it's been
stuff.
really nice so far. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next ones too.
Very cool. What is, Valor, I want to ask you this regarding, and I don't want to take up too much
This
of your
probably have
time.
to be the last round.
What are your thoughts on controlling reality through the mind, like, say, so-called magic, metaphysical, stuff? If you, I'm sure you've explored and read of magical so-called stuff that some would deem witchcraft, or
I don't look at it as witchcraft. Witchcraft is just a vague explanation of something you don't understand. There are physical forces that can be achieved by some people when they put a lot to it, and all you have to do to that is just look at some of the meditation experiments that have been done with even remote viewing. I mean, even the government, has invested money into that.
Exactly.
So it's not just hocus pocus. So it's not witchcraft. There are things beyond our understanding, and as we progress, hopefully we will be able to use these things as a human race to our advantage. But historically, we seem to lose more than we learn. We lose on more information than we gain. The rate is like the proverbial snake eating its tail. We don't really get very far ahead all the time. Usually when people start to figure things out, they're dead.
Well,
They don't get that far.
I think minds are very, very strong, and you can do whatever you want if you believe in it.
Cool.
And that's what Valor just said. We maybe lose stuff, but that's because we don't listen with our heart anymore or think with our heart. I know I say that all the time, but that's just the truth.
I agree.
And that's why we lose all this stuff. We think about too many other things that are...
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, no, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying that I think the human body and the human mind are much more powerful than most people realize, and things that are within our grasp to do. Will seem paranormal or seem superhuman when it's really something that we all possess.
People are just busy with narrow-minded stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And they forget what their ability is.
That makes sense. I agree. I saw a Kung Fu show yesterday, and there was a guy from the Shaolin Temple standing upside down on 2 fingers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. But you train, obviously, since a child for that.
Yeah, but it's not just physical.
Yeah.
I've done martial arts too.
Cool.
And that
What
sort
kind?
of thing, Weichiru,
That's
karate.
cool.
But my dad is a sensei.
Wow.
So it's more than your physical is thing, but if you don't have your physical stamina is one thing, but your mental ability to overcome your physical disabilities or inadequacies, if you don't have that, you can't achieve that kind of seemingly miraculous results.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even something like that, where that's an age-old art. But if you were to take that guy standing on his 2 fingers into the wrong place and the wrong time of history, that would be witchcraft.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Considered so.
I've been brought up with black magic, and I've seen a lot of scary, crazy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Imagine. Well, is there anything, I know you need to grab some dinner and stuff and things before the show.
There's people waiting,
Yeah,
that's all.
waiting.
Oh, do you?
Otherwise, that's why the time.
Oh, I understand. Okay, that's cool. So anything you'd like to say?
Stay positive and stop being negative, and if you hear people saying negative things, try and reprimand them and tell them to get a life.
Yeah, don't be a sheep. Don't follow everybody. Think for yourself and don't listen to other people before you're actually there experiencing it yourself.
That's great advice. Thank you. Valor, Matri, Jason, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce, for your
Thank you,
time.
Bruce.
My pleasure. Stopping here now.